The boy was clearly emaciated, Ambassador. Clearly emaciated. So yes, he has a medical condition, but also he's clearly not eating. The United Kingdom will become the 149th country to recognise Palestine as a sovereign state of the United Nations.
The UK's bold move to recognise Palestine has ignited a firestorm at the UN, exposing deep divides over Gaza's humanitarian crisis. On Truth Decryptor, we dissect harrowing claims of starvation, accusations of war crimes, and searing rebuttals from Israeli and Palestinian diplomats in a showdown that pits global politics against gut-wrenching realities.
In September, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer recalled his cabinet to discuss the unfolding disaster in Gaza, and he promised this.
I can confirm the UK will recognise the State of Palestine by the United Nations General Assembly in September, unless the Israeli government takes substantive steps to end the appalling situation in Gaza, agree to a ceasefire, and commit to a long-term sustainable peace, reviving the prospect of a two-state solution.
Well, those conditions may prove almost impossible for the current Israeli government to meet, and Keir Starmer knows that. Netanyahu doesn't want a two-state solution. Senior members of his government don't even want Palestinians in the West Bank. His response was to lash Starmer and the UK in an extraordinary rebuke for a close ally. Starmer rewards Hamas's monstrous terrorism, he said, and punishes its victims. A jihadist state on Israel's border today will threaten Britain tomorrow. Appeasement towards jihadist terrorists.
This heart-wrenching admission challenges official Israeli denials of starvation in Gaza, spotlighting the real human toll behind political spin and media battles.
Always fails. It will fail you too. It will not happen. And many supporters of Israel are criticising Starmer for imposing conditions on Israel and not Hamas, but giving conditions to Hamas in exchange for statehood would recognise Hamas as part of the future of Palestine. That would be a reward. The real criticism should be for imposing any conditions at all. The UK should recognise Palestine unconditionally, just as France will, simply because there is no two-state solution without a Palestinian state. It's also true that there's no two-state solution which includes Hamas, and there is no two-state solution that includes Netanyahu either. That's why this historic announcement is more about sending a message than anything else, and the message at least is very clear. It's time for the killing and suffering to end. It's time for dignity and peace for the Palestinian people. And it's time for Israel to listen to its friends. Well, the UK and France will both recognise Palestine as a sovereign state at the UN General Assembly in September. And we have two views from the heart of the UN in New York. Israeli Ambassador Danny Danon joins shortly. But first, I'm joined by Ambassador Majid Bamia, the UN Deputy Permanent Observer to the State of Palestine. Well, welcome to you, Deputy Permanent Observer. Can I ask you, first of all, your reaction to this announcement from the British Prime Minister that the UK will, from September, recognise the State of Palestine?
We believe this is long overdue. We think this is extremely important. If you believe in the right to self-determination, if you believe we are entitled as all nations to liberty and dignity, and if you believe in peace and the two-state solution, there's no justification not to recognize the State of Palestine, and we are seeing that many intend to do so in September.
The critics of it say it's a reward to Hamas, a reward for terrorists. What's your response to that?
Well, let's try this. Maybe it has something to do with our commitment to the peaceful path to liberation, including in the midst of genocide. Maybe it has something to do with our rights. Maybe it has something to do with the wanton destruction of Gaza and the killing of our people and Israel's position, extremist position against the Palestinian people's existence and against their right to statehood and destroying the two-state solution to which there is no alternative. And let's be honest, Israel is not proposing to have a one state with all having equal rights from the river to the sea. That's not their alternative to the Palestinian state. Their alternative is either to annihilate us, either to forcibly displace us, or either to subjugate us. So we have the choice. Do you want genocide, ethnic cleansing, or apartheid? And so the rightful thing to do is to say, no, the Palestinian people have a right to self-determination, and we have to recognize that state as part of preserving these rights and the two-state solution and the chances of peace for the Palestinian people, for the Israeli people, and for the entire region.
Do you accept that on October the 7th, that the scale of the terror attack by Hamas means that they, in that moment, abrogated any right to be part of any government at the end of this war in Gaza and the West Bank, for that matter?
I think we are past that conversation. There is a plan for the day after the end of the war, and it foresees an end to the rule of Hamas, Hamas handing over its weapons to the Palestinian Authority that has to resume its governmental functions and unify Gaza and reunify Gaza and the West Bank in the context of an independent and sovereign Palestinian state with also East Jerusalem as its capital. The fact that the war on the Palestinian people in Gaza is ongoing is delaying these solutions. The fact that Israel doesn't want a Palestinian Authority that is empowered, that it is doing everything to annihilate the forces of peace in Palestine, that it is willing to go on to avoid the prospect of a Palestinian state, is delaying all of this.
How can you give any guarantees that Hamas will accept any of this? I mean, if you're Hamas right now, you're seeing Israel becoming increasingly unpopular around the world for the scale of what they're doing in Gaza, for the death and suffering that they're causing. Many people now believe it's gone way past self-defense, that there is a clear plan articulated by the likes of Smotrich and Ben-Gvir in the Israeli government to cleanse the Gaza Strip from all Palestinians. So if you're Hamas, where is the incentive to bring this to an end if you know you're going to give up power?
So first, let me tell you, I had friends, diplomats, who came to me after the 7th of October and telling me, you understand Israel needs to respond. You understand what the Israeli people have endured. They need to restore deterrence. I haven't seen yet any diplomat that came to me before the 7th of October or now that Israel has killed the 60,000 Palestinians telling me, we understand you have to kill Israelis. We understand that you have to go to violence. They always call on us to be pacifists, to choose the non-violent way. And so you cannot demand Palestinian pacifism and justify Israeli militarism. And there's no right to self-defense and no right to resistance and no right whatsoever, whatever title and beautiful title you put on it, that justify the massacres of a people. And this was always about getting rid of the Palestinian people. And it was clear from day one in their statements, and now I think the whole world recognizes it for what it is, a plan to get rid of the people and to steal their land. Now there is an offer by Palestine, the region, and the world to have this effort to a two-state solution, but that starts at the heart of it is Palestinian independence, is to stop the war on the Palestinian people in Gaza, but also the assault on the Palestinian people throughout the occupied territory. We had 1,000 Palestinians killed in the West Bank, including 200 children. We have 17,000 children killed in Gaza. All of Gaza has been destroyed. We have villages being burnt as we speak. We have settlers attacks. We have occupation forces attack. 40,000 displaced in the West Bank. And you know what was our response? The response of the Arab world, led by Saudi Arabia, who was co-chairing this conference? There is and we must end the cycle of violence. We must break it. And the only way to do that is not by continuing to deny Palestinian rights, it's by the fulfillment of Palestinian rights. Not by the destruction of the Palestinian state, but by its independence. And so you have forces for peace. And France, who also spoke of recognition first in the context of this conference as a co-chair of it, and now we see a movement. Britain is part of that movement, other countries as well. They have a vision of peace. We have a vision of peace. Israel doesn't. Israel wants to, even its closest allies, it's listening to no one. And so the guarantee is all of this, is the entire world ready to support the Palestinian Authority resuming its responsibilities with international support, with regional support. And if Israel accepts that Palestinian state, the two-state solution, fulfilling the rights of the Palestinian people, it has a path to regional integration. In the midst of a genocide, we're sending a message of peace. That was the point of the conference. And Israel wants to portray it as a message of destruction, of anti-Semitism, of negation. It is not. It's a Palestinian state living side by side with Israel in peace and security. And it is the Palestinian state and the Palestinian people who are enduring an existential threat.
Who do you see running Gaza at the end of this war? If it's not going to be Hamas, is your vision for this that it would be the Palestinian Authority, which might be very controversial with many Palestinians in Gaza who don't want that? Could it be another group that comes forward to govern in Gaza? What do you see happening?
What does it mean? You have a Palestinian government recognized across the world. And who tells you that the Palestinian people in Gaza, they want the end of this war? They are the ones who endure it in their flesh. You have mothers burying all of their children. You have people who have been tortured.
The Palestinian deputy ambassador paints a grim picture of Gaza's devastation, directly confronting the world with undeniable suffering that demands urgent attention beyond rhetoric.
You have people being starved by the millions. You have an entire classroom killed every single day. 10 Palestinian children losing 1 or 2 legs every single day. 25 Palestinian children losing 1 or both parents every single day. It's been 662 days. Those who absolutely want this war to end, and they know that part of it is also that reunification and that statehood that will make sure they never have to endure such hell again, and that protects them from all of this, are the Palestinian people in Gaza. That is not the concern. But I'm telling you that the only problem Israel has with the Palestinian Authority, and it knows that the Palestinian Authority will have the support of the region and the world. The conclusions of the conference call for an international stabilization mobilization in that context, with forces mandated by the Security Council upon the invitation of the Palestinian Authority, but to support our security forces, not instead of them, because that needs to be part of our statehood. So everybody is willing to contribute to that day after. But they have to accept that that day after is Palestinian independence. Israel is always explaining to the world, we are one war away from peace. Netanyahu, you can look at his speeches 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago. He's always one war away from peace. And he thinks that by getting rid of the Palestinian people, that's the solution. The biggest rebuke came from the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Saudi Arabia, who told them their only path to normalization and peace is Palestinian statehood and independence. And the whole world has rallied around this. All of these are their enemies now. The 190 countries who are meeting at the United Nations are the enemies of the people of Israel. They are the enemies of the government, the policies of the Israeli government, of annexation, annihilation, displacement. Nobody can stand for that. And honestly, they've been too patient with these practices, and it is time to hold Israel accountable for its actions.
But just to be clear, because I'm not sure you fully answered my question, do you believe the Palestinian Authority would govern after the war in Gaza? And would that necessitate an election in Gaza? Or how would you see this happening?
The Palestinian Authority has to resume as soon as possible. There are some transitional arrangements for 6 months under the umbrella of the Palestinian Authority and with a role for the Palestinian Authority. But and these arrangements, with the support of the mediators and the role of Egypt, and with the Qatar and the Arabs, and the mediation of the United States for a ceasefire, there is a push to have we have an Arab OIC plan, the entire Arab and Muslim world, to have a return of the Palestinian Authority under the policy of one state, one government, one gun. So we will be responsible for that. And there is a commitment by President Abbas in the letter to the co-chairs of the conference, Saudi Arabia and France, to hold elections within a year, and a call to help us ensure that we can hold it across the occupied territory, including in East Jerusalem. But that should not be a reason to delay ending the war, to delay our ability to go. And this is our duty, to help and serve our people after this terrible massacres and attacks by Israel that have destroyed everything. And Israel never has to to repair for it. The whole world has to do it for them. And even that, they are hampering. The world sends aid to our people instead of Israel abiding by its own obligation as occupying power, and it makes sure it never gets to the people or shoots them while they're trying to get it. They want to portray this as a fight between civilization and barbarism. I saw the message you showed from Netanyahu. This is the civilization, starving children, infants dying of hunger. That's civilization, bombing and obliterating everything. And so they want it to be between Muslims and Jews. but the bombs and the bullets of Israel don't distinguish between a Palestinian Muslim and a Palestinian Christian.
A powerful plea to reject framing the conflict as a religious war, emphasizing unity in Palestinian suffering and condemning any use of the Holocaust as cover for violence.
Between a church and a mosque, between the Christian village of Taipei or the communities in Masafer Yatta. Their fight is against the entire Palestinian people. So it's not a religious conflict. And we, in the movement in favor of Palestine, you have people from all lines of faith. And we don't accept that Jews are blamed for what Israel does. And we don't accept that Israel uses Jews or the Holocaust as a shield from accountability and criticism.
This segment exposes the raw, emotional core of one of today's most explosive international dramas. As the UK pledges Palestinian state recognition, voices from the UN spotlight starvation, war crimes accusations, and decades of failed peace efforts. The clash beneath these headlines reveals urgent questions about humanity, accountability, and the future of peace in the region. Stay informed, subscribe now for ongoing Truth Decryptor coverage, and join the global dialogue on justice and truth.